Welcome to the Cocktail Spirit from Small Screen Network. I'm your host, Robert Hess. Today we're going to take and do a drink called the Hakam cocktail. It's a drink I ran across in the Savoy Cocktail Book, written by Harry Craddock. First edition was from 1930. So he wrote that near the end of American Prohibition. And the thing to understand is that Harry Craddock was an American bartender, bartending here in America. And when Prohibition hit in 1920, he basically was out of a job. So he went to England and worked at the Savoy as their head bartender. And in 1930, he came out with a book of cocktail recipes of the drinks that they were serving there at the Savoy. So this is a good, nice snapshot in time to kind of see what the drinks were that they were drinking overseas when it was illegal to have drinks here in America. Now, Hakam, we're not quite sure exactly where the name comes from. In Hebrew, it apparently means wise man. So this is what I would like to say, the wise man cocktail. So we're going to start off with 1.5 ounces of gin. I'm going to be using Martin Miller's gin, and specifically their Westbourne strength gin, which is also called a Navy strength in some places. It's an overproof gin, so it's got a higher alcohol content. One of the things that alcohol is going to do, especially the higher alcohol content gins and products, is they're going to point out the flavors a little bit more. And so when the flavors are being dulled down a bit by the ice and the water that the cocktail is made with, this is going to let them still stand proud above that. So it can work really well. Now Martin Miller's gin is a slightly different flavor-wise than other gins. It's got kind of a cucumbery, sort of slightly sweet flavor to it. This particular drink you might recognize as being similar to a Martinez cocktail. Many of the old recipes for the Martinez cocktail are going to specifically call for an Old Tom gin, and Martin Miller's, I was kind of feeling, since it's got kind of a slightly different flavor profile than a regular London dry style gin to it, it's going to kind of be playing that role of the Old Tom here in this drink instead. Then we're going to add 1.5 ounces of sweet vermouth. And then we're going to add a dash of orange bitters. I'm going to use the Bitter Truth orange bitters here. Now, if I just stopped here, this basically would be a classic original martini. Gin, sweet vermouth, equal parts orange bitters. That was a martini. Some martinis would have had more sweet vermouth than they did gin, but essentially 50-50 with orange bitters, that was a martini. Now that evolves, some say, from the Martinez cocktail. The Martinez, many of those would have had Maraschino liqueur, orange curacao, some other sweetener sort of stuff to it that made it different than a martini to a certain extent, and also slightly different from the Hakam, specifically because of the Maraschino. To this we're just adding like 2 dashes of orange curacao to turn this away from a martini into a Hakam cocktail. And again, I'm using a bar spoon just to assist me in pouring 2 dashes from a bottle that does not have a dasher top. If you found yourself doing a drink like this an awful lot in a bar, you might want to take and stick some in a dasher bottle to make it easier to pour out, and so you can control it better, especially if you're a busy bar, because doing this whole bar spoon thing, that kind of slows things down quite a bit. So now let's quickly stir this up. And of course, remember, in stirring, it's always important to make sure you're really getting that ice to flow through the product. You don't want to churn it to add bubbles and things like that, but you really want to get everything moving properly to chill it down. And again, unlike what most people or some people out there might tell you, stirring can chill a drink just as much as shaking it can. They're both equal processes. Both are going to add basically the exact same amount of water to the drink as it's chilling down. And again, from a mixing glass, I'm using a julep strainer rather than a regular hawthorn strainer because it fits nicely in the glass. Here we have the Hakam cocktail. The first flavor I'm tasting is the sweet vermouth. So this is a very sweet vermouth forward drink, which is another very important reason to make sure you're using either a fresh bottle of sweet vermouth or sweet vermouth that you're keeping in the refrigerator. Then I'm tasting kind of that cucumber flavor that the Martin Millers is bringing to it. And then the bitters and the orange curacao are just peeking in at the back of it to add a little bit more of complexity. I think this is an excellent drink. If you're someone or know somebody that is averse to having gin cocktails, I think this would be a great drink to introduce someone to new gin with. There we have the Hakam cocktail.